the Supreme Court not long ago has ruled against, made a major ruling against Donald Trump's tariffs. And this is the first real, I believe, rebuke of him from the Supreme Court. Do you agree with that?
I mean, we've had a few minor times that they've rebuked them on immigration, but I think this is by far the most significant. And so the Supreme Court's basically doing the job that Congress refused to do in stopping these illegal tariffs. So really, it's just a bailout for House Republicans who refuse to do anything.
What do you mean it's a bailout for House Republicans? Because some of them are saying this has to be overturned, and so that we can get along. There was a response from someone saying, so we can get on with the American people's business and all that stuff. Do you know the score?
Yeah, I mean, look, they have refused to actually legislate and hold the Trump administration accountable on any issue, but certainly this one.
Pardon me.
They're trying to have their cake and eat it too. They want to appear as though they're supporting the tariffs while not actually do anything legislatively about it so they can keep enough distance. If they wanted to stop the tariffs, they have the right and ability to do that right now. They just overturned in the House some of the tariffs on Canada, so they could do this with all of them if they wanted to, or they could pass all these tariffs. I mean, Bernie Moreno, who's the senator from Ohio earlier today, is saying that he wants an up and down vote in the Senate on bringing back all of Trump's tariffs. So, this is, to me, it's a bailout for the House and Senate Republicans. Is
Wait,
really what it is.
a vote in the Senate to bring back all of Trump's tariffs. But what if the
Yeah.
Supreme Court has said no?
Well, the Supreme Court is saying he can't do it unilaterally. He's like the argument that Roberts is making, at least in terms of what I read, is the Congress has to levy new taxes. So they can't
Right.
use the emergency laws because there's no emergency here to create the tariffs.
Yeah, but also, isn't there a whole thing about taxation without representation that is part of this legal ruling?
Yes, that's
That's
a
what
huge
this
part
is?
of it. You need your elected representatives to make determinations about your taxes, and that hasn't happened here.
Yeah.
But again, Congress has refused to act on this. They could have terminated these tariffs at any time themselves, and they didn't.
What do you think? I don't think this is going to stop him from doing anything. He's just going to continue to do it. Like, so I don't know. I'm not an attorney. Are you an attorney?
No,
You're
I'm
not
not
an-
a attorney. Despite what my mother wanted, I went into politics instead.
So I'm just wondering what this means, because he's defied federal judges. He's defied judges as it relates to ICE and due process and all of that, and even before on these tariffs.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is going to stop him at all.
They claim they have backups in order to be able to do this. It sounds like that's maybe what he's going to announce at this press conference because they knew this was going to happen. I don't know that they'll listen to the Supreme Court here, and then it'll be up to Congress to sort of rebuke him again, which Republicans are not going to do. But I don't know. I think the bigger question that I'm more interested in is what happens with the tariff refunds? Where does that money go? Because to me, every American deserves a refund for all the taxes they've been paying for the last year.
Yeah. So, but I don't think that they have. I don't think they have the money. That's gonna be the thing. Where is that money gone? Because I
Exactly.
did speak to an attorney this morning, and the attorney said, "Hey, guess what? That money is gone and it's not coming back."
Right. And I mean, listen, the federal government never likes to give people their money back, period, but certainly not under this president. By the way, he just took $10 billion and gave it to the U.S. Peace Foundation or his Council of Peace, whatever the hell it's called. And nobody knows where that money's coming from either. So it feels like he keeps creating slush funds for himself. And my guess is they took all this tariff money and it's God knows where, and they're not going to give it back. But they should. I mean, that's what Congress should do. And I think Democrats should run on a platform of giving people their money back. Like that should be something that we campaign on in the midterm.
Yeah, but where does that money come from?
I
Is
don't
that
know.
money gonna come from taxpayers? Is it gonna come from the billions of dollars that Donald Trump has made,
Yeah.
since becoming president of the United States? I mean, we know that can't happen. I mean,
Well,
it would be great if it did.
increasingly, I believe the federal government should seize all of Donald Trump's assets, liquidate it, give it to the Epstein survivors first, then the rest can go to everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that, but there are a lot of people, yeah, and look, there are way more, there are far fewer Epstein survivors. Well, not than
Yeah.
people who overpaid taxes, but I just thought about that and I went, who knows, right? Um, but there are far fewer of them, I do believe, than obviously than citizens who have overpaid taxes. There are millions and millions of people who have overpaid their taxes, and they're going to want something. And I would imagine he's going to come up with something. Perhaps if he feels he has to do it, he's going to come up with something like, "I'm going to give you, some sort of stimulus check or stimmy or whatever." I don't know how they're going to do it.
I don't know what they're gonna do. He's been promising checks this entire time. Like, I don't know about you. I never got my Doge check that I was promised. They said they were
Never.
gonna cut all this money, give me a Doge check. Never got that.
What
Never got the
happened to that, by the way? Because I kept wondering, where's my Doge check?
They lied. They lied.
Mm,
So
mm,
I
mm.
just, turns out they lie about everything, Don. I think you might have a little bit of personal experience with that. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah, don't
yeah.
I know?
Yeah.
Um,
It's crazy. These guys are crazy and they don't have any plan. They're just oscillating wildly from one thing to the next.
but you were saying something you were talking about before I cut you off about where's the Doge check. What were you saying?
No, I mean, I want my dose check. I was promised a tariff check right before the election last year in Virginia and New Jersey. They were saying they were going to give people something. They're saying now they're going to do it this summer. I mean, the American people are struggling right now, and I think the average American family paid an extra $1,500 to $2,000 last year, and 60-70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So people's lives were made unnecessarily more difficult last year for illegal tariffs that were all about stroking Donald Trump's ego, and they're never going to get that money back. And that just isn't right to me. And I'm angry about it. I think everybody should be angry about it.
Well, it's interesting because people are asking if the Supreme Court can be overturned or overruled. The Supreme Court's decision can only be overruled by a subsequent different Supreme Court ruling or by a constitutional amendment.
Yeah.
Congress
Well,
passed new legislation to override statutory interpretations,
yeah.
and in rare instances, a constitutional amendment can overturn a Supreme Court ruling. The president cannot directly override Supreme Court decisions.
I mean, again, that assumes that we're adhering to the rule of law here and we're actually doing what the Constitution says. So I think every time we have a moment like this, it becomes an unintentional constitutional crisis because we don't know what this president is going to do. Is he going to do what he's told? Is he going to follow the law? Is he going to just do whatever the hell he wants? I think he's going to do whatever the hell he wants. I don't know what he's going to say today in his press conference, but I'm sure it's not going to be, okay, I'm just going to listen to SCOTUS and move on because he doesn't
Yeah.
act that way.
Yeah, because as we are doing this live and taping this to run on other platforms, we're awaiting word from the president. I can tell you what he's going to say. I have the right to be able to. He's going to say basically what he said in that unhinged. I don't know was it a rally? I don't know what it was in Georgia
Mhm.
last night, where or yesterday, where he's going to say that he has the right to do it, that he's saving the American people a lot of money, and that America would be bankrupt if it were not for these things. So he's going to try some of that, and perhaps make some sort of appeal to the Supreme Court. I would imagine. Can you appeal something to the Supreme Court? I guess you can, but
I
I don't
mean,
know.
they would have to agree to take it, which I think would be very unprecedented in this situation. And he lost 6-3. It wasn't even close. Like the only people he got to vote for him are the people who are just outright hacks on the Supreme Court, which is what is I think it was Alito, it was Kavanaugh, and it was Thomas, right? So those
Yeah,
three are just going to do whatever Trump wants because they're corrupt and they're basically just Republican operatives. The other thing I don't know if you saw because he was meeting with governors today.
yeah.
I think at the White House. And there were leaks from that event where he found out that the ruling came down in the middle of it and like everything was cordial and fine. And then he just like flew off the handle in the middle of this meeting and he started going, these fucking courts are destroying my administration. They're refusing to let me do whatever I want, yada, yada, yada. So he's probably pretty upset right now because he doesn't like any constraints on his power.
Aw.
Yeah, poor guy. You hate to see it.
No, I thank you, RP 2112, because I'm getting information. I'm saying these things just to ask questions, but someone says now Donna says no, it's over, no more appeals, nothing. RP 2112 says no P has to file a lawsuit in the district and it has to make it to SCOTUS. That's never going to happen. But a lower
Yeah.
court won't overturn the SCOTUS ruling. Now, the information I have says no, generally you cannot appeal a decision from the Supreme Court, as it is a final arbiter in the American judicial system. It is the court of last resort, and its decisions are binding, only overturned by a later Supreme Court ruling or a constitutional amendment, as was stated earlier. So it sounds like one of my favorite sayings is that sounds like as it relates to tariffs, he's up Schitt's Creek without a paddle.
That's right. That's 100% right. I mean, look, if he wants these tariffs to come back, he has to go get Congress to implement them. That is the answer here. And Republicans are in control of the House and they're in control of the Senate. So if they want to move along with that, they certainly can try. They will fail because they don't have enough support to do it. They have like a 2-seat majority in the House right now because so many people are out. They're not going to be able to get any of that done. And I think so much of the coverage today has been about the domestic impact on prices and the economy, but the international consequences of this are tremendous too. Like he has built his entire foreign policy apparatus around punishing other countries with tariffs if they don't do what he wants. Now he's completely neutered. He has no way to bully the rest of the world, with the exception of America's military might. And, again, that's what he's doing to Iran right now, which is partially a distraction for everything that's happening in this country. But he is a weak, lame duck president, and he is weaker by the minute.
But, also, speaking of being completely neutered, which I don't wanna even think about, I want that picture of that of Donald Trump in my head, but
I mean, Grok, make an image of no, don't do that.
no. But speaking of that, he also knows that come November of 2026,
Mhm.
if he doesn't win, meaning his party, then he's, also up shit creek without a spoon
Right.
because, he has no power. He's lame duck. Some of his people are gonna start to get prosecuted. Impeachment is gonna be on the table for a lot of people. And, consequences are gonna be on the table for a lot of folks. And that would the worst thing for him would be not even if he's out of the presidency, I believe. I believe to have a position of power and just be a figurehead would be the worst thing that he could do because he would basically be powerless and he's used to calling the shots.
Yeah, I think he's going to be backed into a corner, and it seems pretty likely the Democrats are going to flip the House in November, barring some substantial change in the state of the economy, which I can't imagine the labor market improving significantly this year, given AI and robotic trends, period, let alone the tariffs and everything else. So unless there's a shift, Democrats are going to take the House. I think the Senate is now a 50-50 proposition for the
Mm,
Democrats, so they might get completely wiped out there. You can almost see that scenario where Trump's approval dips from the high 30s now into the low 30s, where George W. Bush was on his way out the door, and Democrats start winning some really weird races. Like we win Alaska, we win a Texas, we win something like that. That becomes a huge indictment of him. I think people forget we basically ran George W. Bush out of Washington, D.C. at the end of his second term.
yeah.
I think there's a real chance, especially if the stock market tanks, that that's what happens to Trump here. And he becomes, a very failed president in the annals
Well,
of history, which is going to
people
drive
don't
him crazy. Sorry.
Look, how soon we forget. I remember, during the end of Bush, pretty close to the end, not quite. I think it was like what was it, 2006? The election was in 2008, right? I went to CNN and I had to buy a house in Atlanta, and the mortgage rates from the time that I bought my place in Chicago where I was living, and to move to Atlanta, I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
It was crazy. I forget what the number that it was up to, and then my mom said, "You think that's bad? You should have seen them back in the day what the mortgage rates used to be." But, I mean, these were really high mortgage rates. But people don't remember the financial crisis, the how the economy was basically falling off of a cliff, and then the Obama administration had to come in. They had emergency meetings in
Yeah.
order to fix the economy before they even got into the White House because Bush wasn't doing it. They're like, "Well, we're gonna have to do something." And I forget who was his economic advisor or the person was curly-haired dude, I forgot his
Ben
name.
Bernanke.
No, it wasn't Ben Bernanke, it was another
No?
guy. Curly-haired guy,
Mm.
I don't know if it was his I forget who it was. Starts with a G maybe. I'll think about it. Maybe folks in the chat. I'm, like, actually in 2 different, Substacks so that I could see the chat.
You have it opened on a dummy account so you can see I love that account.
Yeah.
That's funny. Um, I will do you wanna hear my, while you're thinking about that, do you wanna hear my Tim Geithner. There you go.
Tim
The
Geithner,
chat the
that's
chat
it.
had it.
I
I
thought it
remember his
started with a
great name.
G. That's him. That's him.
See, I just started having a flood of people come back in my mind that I haven't thought of in a while. Tim Geithner, Arnie Duncan, stuff like that. Kathy Sebelius, former Kansas governor.
Oh my god.
Do you wanna hear my funny, stupid, MAGA story before we run
Sure.
out of time?
Yeah.
So I just thought you'd get a kick out of this one. I think Chad will like this too. So, a Trump supporter by the name I wrote it down. So a Trump supporter by the name of Wesley Dingus, that is this man's actual legal name, Wesley Dingus, got
Is this a
himself
real
elected.
person?
This is a real person. I swear to God, I Googled it. I triple verified it because I laughed so hard when I saw the first tweet about this. A man by the name of Wesley Dingus was a big MAGA supporter, was elected mayor of Butler, Ohio, and was arrested this week for sniffing an underage girl's
Oh, I
underwear.
saw that.
And I'm like, you can't make that shit up. Like, that's an Onion headline to me. It's unbelievable. It's a full encapsulation of everything that's going on right now in America. I just thought maybe not laugh at it, but at least, roll your eyes at it.
So what wait, do you have a connection to that story or that was just your weird story?
It's just my weird story that I
It
thought,
was it was an underage family member, right?
was it a family member? I didn't see that part.
Yeah, I think it says underage family member. Let me I mean, it's gross, but
It's
here's the
gross.
thing,
Can't get over his last name being Dingus, though. I think that part is really funny.
let's see, Dingus, let me see. I think it was, yeah.
People are
Wait,
creeps.
where is he from? You said he's from Ohio?
Butler, Ohio.
Yeah, Butler, Ohio, and it says voyeurism involving an underage relative. Yeah. A Richland County mayor has been arrested on voyeurism charges after allegedly sniffing the underwear of an underage family member.
Voyeurism is quite the term as well. I feel like I haven't heard that word in a while.
Yeah, according to the report, the victim set up a security camera in her bedroom in January after she suspected that
Oh, he
Butler
set up a security camera?
Mayor
Oh,
Leslie Dingus was going through her things. When she watched the video back, she saw a shirtless Dingus burying his nose in several pairs of her underwear. She allegedly caught him doing it again this week. This is not the first brush with the law, his first brush with the law. He is currently facing charges from last summer when he allegedly ran down a man wanted by police with his car. Dingus
Jesus.
pleaded not guilty to several charges, including aggravated assault. Um, this was a News 5 report out of Ohio, and it says reached out to Dingus about the new charges, but is not heard back. Yeah, and so
That's crazy.
he's a MAGA, isn't he?
Yes,
Yeah?
he's a MAGA guy. He's a big Trump supporter. And, V for Violet said, "Let's see this loser." And I'm like, picture him in your mind. He looks exactly how you think he looks.
Yes, and look,
I'll pull up a photo.
I've seen the photos, the dark hair, he looks like a Baptist preacher. He looks like a preacher. So,
He kind of looks like an assistant football coach from the University of Ohio. That's like what he looks like to me.
so there's a Reich I don't know if you know
Here, if can
on
people see that, or is
Insta
it? I'm too far away from the camera, right?
wait, let me see if I can see it, like, I need to see it. Oh, yeah. You're far away, but
I'm too
yes,
far
I
away. I'm
see it.
sorry.
Um, but he looks like someone who's, like, on a reality show. But there's this thing, called Right Wing Watch, right? And
Okay.
it's, online, it's, Instagram, I don't know if it's TikTok, it's probably, Twitter too. But they just follow the MAGA and the right wing folks, and you would not believe because, the mainstream media is hiding it or they don't think it's important, but the number of people who are charged and look it up because I know that you're online, who are charged or, are accused of either having material on their computers in their possession of underage kids or of doing something nefarious with an underage person or just something gross in general, and, they look like the January 6th insurrectionists, most of them, but some of them look just like your from not mine, but my friend's uncle, dad, cousin, or whatever, just like sort of an average guy, like the guy that you saw.
Yeah.
And it is always some conservative MAGA white guy. And I don't know
Yes.
if do you remember what Tim Tebow did when he did his report? And he said it
No.
was all oh, you gotta go back and look at it. I encourage everyone to just Google Tim Tebow, um, pedophiles or whatever you wanna call it, and, white men. And he said it is middle-aged white men committing most I don't know if it's like 90% of it or whatever, and he said, "We have a crisis in our country, and no one wants to face it or realize it." And if you go to this right wing watch, you'll see a lot of the things, and if you just Google folks who are in the chat right now, just Google it, and then let me know what you come up with in
Yeah,
short order.
I pulled it up. Tim Tebow says the face of child predators isn't what most people think. According to him, it's time to stop overlooking, quote, the middle-aged white man with good jobs and degrees who are hiding in plain sight. He's calling for accountability and less silence. He said this on the Sean Ryan show.
How much have you heard about that?
I've heard a little bit about it. I also remember him briefly talking about school shootings and the relationship with young white men.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to see Tim Tebow talk about those things because I kind of view him as pretty MAGA coded.
Well, that's the surprising thing, and is that he's speaking the truth. I don't mean how much have you heard about Tim Tebow, but how much do you hear these stories where they actually say what Tim Tebow is saying, which is a fact.
Yeah, well, I'm a college football fan, so I've heard a lot about Tim Tebow, even usually against my will because they kind of shove him down everybody's throats. But Tebow's always seemed like a good dude to me. So I'm kind of grateful to see him speaking out on that because Republicans don't want to spend any time talking about the actual perpetrators of violence and sexual exploitation. For instance, this was like the third shooting in 2 or 3 years where somebody that they suspected might have been trans happened like last week, I think, in Canada. And then Republicans were back on blaming all gun violence on trans people again. And I'm just like, why don't you take a look at the faces of the people who actually commit these offenses, which is usually white men?
They can't do it.
No.
They can't do
When
it.
they look in the mirror, they see the same face looking back at them.
Yeah, but can you imagine if it was a black man?
They'd
By
lose their
the way,
minds.
Donald Trump is now addressing, let me see if I can hear anything. What he's saying.
I'll see if there's somebody doing a live.
Oh my God, he's talking about the stock market. He sounds like Pam Bondi. He's talking about the stock market.
Hey, the stock market's under 50,000. We're allowed to talk about Epstein. So I don't want to hear any of that.
Can you
Let's
hear
see.
this or no?
I can't hear it.
Yeah. Amazing. But yeah, he's up talking about it now. And it's crazy. But the stock market is great. And the Dow is at 50,000. Then she goes, dollars. It's like, oh my God.
I will tell you, this is from NBC. President Trump called the Supreme Court decision to strike down his power to impose sweeping tariffs as, quote, deeply disappointing at a news conference this afternoon, saying he was, quote, ashamed of some of the justices over the ruling. When the opinion came down this morning, the president called it a disgrace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we know what the disgrace is. And the disgrace is him.
Yeah.
And he lies. If he's talking, he's lying.
His lips are moving.
Mike Nellis, good to see you, friend.
Good to see you too, my friend. Appreciate
That's
you.
it? Are you good? You got any more, like, MAGA weird stories?
I'm sure I have plenty of them. The other thing I'm mad about today is that Reverend Jesse Jackson and family asked for him to lie in state at the Capitol, and they said no.
They said no. And also, what about the flags at half-staff?
It's bullshit. Complete bullshit. If we're going to do that for Charlie Kirk, we should definitely do it for Jesse Jackson.
I mean,
That was very Trumpian of both of us to be like,
I don't wanna do that one because, it
that's
looks like,
actually the thing about that is that's the way all white people dance. So
yeah, but
I
that looks
can't,
like
I
2
can't not do
dudes.
that.
But
He's like this, and yeah, yes. I'm going to send you a clip from the show Silicon Valley that's about that.
all right, send it to me. All right. See you, Mike
Very cool.
Nellis.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Appreciate you, Don. Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.